My dad never had money really to put us on an extra English class. Like friends of mine had a possibility or opportunities to do that. I didn't. I had two goals when I came to the US. I was learning English and be successful. It's not because your parents didn't have an opportunity or didn't have the possibility to give that opportunity. What are you gonna do about it? I need to wake up every day and I have to grow. The successful word is I'm extremely successful and I'm gonna be successful in whatever I do because I show up and I'm not just putting 100%, it's 200%. Nobody can do anything for you, And there is sayings that people are not gonna come to rescue you. So what are you gonna do? And that's what I did. I went.
Best conversations are the ones that don't have a script to them.
That's it.
There's so much I want to talk to you about. First of all, welcome to ATL, brother.
I appreciate it.
Great to have you. It's great to have you. It's unbelievable that I have someone like you that I think sees value into spending an entire, 2-day trip, spending the money, spending the time to be here in person, understanding. We could have done this as we talked about at the very beginning, 60 minutes or doing something virtual, but the feeling is never the same. Like the difference between this and just the virtual, it's kind of like a Champions League versus the Sunday League.
Yeah.
We're talking about football, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about football. You and I both grew up in this culture. I'm sure you still love your football.
Yeah.
Me, I kind of went away from the phenomenon. But anyway, welcome to ATL. Super good to have you here today. Tell me a little bit. I want to go to your origins, right? Tell me about you growing up. Where did you grow up? What did you envision becoming when you grew up?
That's a loaded question. You know what I mean? So we go back in the background, right? And every time I talk to people, people, oh, you have an accent, and let's go back to how I came to the U.S. And why and the reasons. I grown up in Brazil. It was rough, and it wasn't. How do I say this, right? Majority of the people don't really understand what rough is, and in this conversation goes beyond culture and whatnot. But I feel like Americans are very fortunate, right? They have a lot of stuff here in the U.S. and I never really thought about being in the U.S. because when I moved from Brazil to Switzerland, right? To Europe, that was the choice was Europe for me. I want to go to Europe, and that's where my parents came from, right? And I want to travel. I want to learn language. I want to, understand better cultures and things like that, and experience life, right? See what was out there. I start traveling a little bit when I was 15, 16, 17, I start traveling and see all this stuff. And then at 15, that's when really clicked. I was like, man, I have to experience out there. I have to see what's out there in the world. I got to learn different language better, right? Not just, in Brazil back in the day, I remember this because we studied Latin. There was a school, like public schools in Brazil that offer Latin, French, right, Spanish. And I took all these classes from the point of view of the Brazilian education, and I don't think today they have it anymore, but they still had it back in the day. I think the school system was a lot better, and we study, even though it was like school classes, like extra class, let's put it that way, extra class, still they have on the curriculum, right? And I took those classes. We studied a little bit of Latin. We studied French. I studied Spanish, and I never really thought that I would use those languages after, right? So it was just going to school. But when I really decided that I have to save money, do an extra job, or I start working, in clothing store in sales and always hustling to sell stuff and start saving money to get out of Brazil. That was when I was 15. I made a decision that I want a better life, and I remember the grandparents, the great uncles, the uncles, everybody complain about like how much you have to work, and hindsight back, like you see society today, right? You're older, you understand a lot better the economics of it. My parents have great education. My mom is a lawyer. My dad is a PhD in chemistry. You know what I mean, like in chemical engineer. They have great education, but they still today live paycheck to paycheck because the economy is not. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? And I look at that when I was 15. I remember my dad and my mom having fights about money, right? Problems, and I didn't want that for me. I knew that I didn't want that for me growing up. I didn't want to fight for, like money, even though you have good education. I want to, I want a better life, and that's why I went to Europe. And from Europe, that's why I came to the US, to the pursue the American dream. That was the essence of like my growing up. I want a better life. I want to learn more. I want to understand culture. I want to speak different language. That was the goal. My dad never had money really to put us on an extra English class. Like friends of mine had a possibility, opportunities to do that. I didn't, so then I had to go and study on my own, and I did that for many years. I grabbed papers from friends of mine that would go to extra classes in English and copy the paper and study. I study on my own, and I think that, looking back today, you have to do something for you. Even though there was a lot of responsibility on a 15-year-old, but today I'm still doing the same. You have to take action to get a better life. You know what I mean? It's not because your parents didn't have an opportunity or didn't have the possibility to give that opportunity. What are you going to do about it? Right? For me, it's like if you can do it two ways. You can cry, right? You can stay in the same environment and say, "Oh, my parents couldn't give that to me," right? You can complain, right? Complaints don't make people better, or you can take action. What are you gonna do? And I think I leave that until today. That's the life. What are you gonna do about your life? It's your future. Nobody can do anything for you, And there is sayings that people are not gonna come to rescue you. So what are you gonna do? And that's what I did. I save money. I work harder. I work in extra jobs. I save money to get my ticket to get out, And today I look back and I'm fortunate, like comparing to all of my friends, I speak fluent English. Maybe I'm still learning, right? Maybe that's, but still, I'm living in a country. I live in the opportunity that I build. This is my future. I have my future on my hands. I'm doing something about it, and I'm going after. That's pretty much the story, you know what I mean? So
Lots to unpack. So you saving money, wanted to go. Was it how did you choose Switzerland? Like, was it a random choice? Was it like, why did you want to go to Switzerland?
That was not a random choice.
Okay.
I didn't know English back then, so if I recall this, I had a problem with the English teacher on the school, and I took the classes that was like all Latin basis. I took French and Spanish because it was easier for me coming from the Portuguese-speaking country, right? So Portuguese is pretty close to French and Italian and Spanish.
They're all Romanic languages, just like my native language, Romanian.
Yeah.
They're all from the same family.
So that way it was easier for me, Maybe I took the easy path that time, and that's why I choose Switzerland, because they speak French, Italian, German, and it was, I couldn't speak English, like my English was very high and by. I couldn't sit down and have a conversation with anybody, and I don't think I could have a conversation in French and Italian either, but I had 3 years of the language. You know what I mean? So when I got in Switzerland, I actually got in Zurich, which is the German side. In and then after we moved to Geneva, right? In the French part, which was a lot easier. So the French came so natural, a lot easier for me to speak and get a job. You know what I mean? And that's what I think opened more the opportunities for me.
For people to understand, for context, how easy is to actually being accepted? Like, because I could make a choice. I could say I want to go live in Nicaragua, for example, just making up a name. But then there's rules and like there's laws out there. I don't think, maybe me as an American now citizen, maybe it's not that hard. But from someone from like a random country in the world to just say, hey, I want to come and live here, maybe it's not that easy. Or maybe it's easy, but there's a process to it. So how hard or easy was it to go through the process and to actually be accepted to live there?
So there is a word that they call the xenophobia, right? I think I encountered that living in a country, right? I don't think Switzerland. I think the U.S. is a lot bigger than Switzerland when it comes to people are taking the jobs, right? And then we can go in politics, we can go, but I feel like I didn't have the same problems in Switzerland as I had in the US, right? And the reason why it's because I didn't know English. So when I got here, whatever, 15 years ago, I got a dishwasher job, right? I was cleaning dishes. And I had no problem because all the people that I work with in the kitchen, they were like Mexicans or Guatemalans, and I was fluent in Spanish. So I didn't have a problem per se at the job, but I couldn't get a job because I didn't know English. So the only job I could get, it was the jobs that people come to this country to do the job, right? Whatever they call it, the dirty jobs, right? I was cleaning dishes, and I like it. I like that job. I remember having thoughts about even design a machine that would clean the dishes faster. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even know English, and I was like, man, this machine takes like too long. Like when you close the machine, you know what I mean? And then I don't know, 8 months to a year later, I was talking to the service manager, or even the crew manager that was above me, Danya, and the service manager and the general manager, right? And this guy sat down with me and said, "Man, you have great ideas, for a dishwasher." And I became the guy that was the per se the dishwasher leader, and then from one point to other point of the restaurant, and said that restaurant is closed, but I really like the environment. I like what I learned, and I remember that's like yesterday. And Garrett said to me, "Man, you have great ideas. You're gonna just do fine if you just put your head down and work." And that's what I did. I put my head down and work. I got a job as a dishwasher. 8 months later, a year later, I was in the bakery, and then they rotate me to all the functions to the restaurant. And yeah, 2 years later, I was a crew member, lead member, for the job, and then you just go up. And I left that job. I went to a car washer, and from there I went to Hertz, work at Hertz, cleaning cars, and became a sales rep. And then my English was getting better. And at that time, I was married. And 5 years later, that's all history. By 5 years later, my ex-wife wants to move back to Brazil, and we got divorced. And I thought that for me, it was like, I'm not going back to Brazil. I can't go back to what I planned not to, but I couldn't go back. So we got a divorce. I stay in the U.S. She went back to Brazil, and I just put my head down and work. I work hard. I work more hours. From Hertz, I went through the leaders and positions and became a outside sales manager. And but then I learned a lot with Hertz too, right? Hertz taught me a lot about customer service, and all these places that I work. I feel like now the dots are starting to connect. And it is funny how in life that you don't. I mean, when you were younger, you don't think about those things when you're leaving. So, but now I look back, hindsight, what I done at supplementation, at Hertz, and all the companies that I work, it adds so much to my customer service skills, right? Because I used to take care, and I still have contact with them on LinkedIn. I got customers on LinkedIn that used to work at Hertz. When I used to work at Hertz, they contact me and they're like, "Man, this is great." You know what I mean? You're in roofing now, and I still have contact with these people, and I feel like I serve them great because customers from 10 years ago still remember what you've done for them. It says a lot to what you want to do in life. You know what I mean? I want to serve better, and I want to be better in customer service. So
why Iowa?
Iowa was the first time the manager that I had at Hertz, John, said something about the Midwest because he's from Minnesota, and Iowa. I thought Iowa's Idaho, and somebody said, no, that's the potato state. This is Iowa. That's the corn state. So when I got divorced, I wasn't really, how do I say this and not putting California down. California is a great state, and great opportunities from the north to the south, right? It's a big state too. But when I got divorced, I was never really fond of California. I went to California because my ex-wife wants to go to California. And I never really felt that was my place, And when I got divorced, I started looking into opportunities outside of the map, outside of the West Coast. So, and the Midwest was something that was close to what I like. The seasons, the cold. I like the cold. I like the snow. A lot of people say that, oh man, I can't believe a Brazilian that like the snow. You know what I mean? I like to shovel. Today I like to shovel. I just, we don't have the snow in Brazil. It's that thing that if you don't have blue eyes, you want blue eyes. If your hair is curly, you want to, it's this the thing in life, right? So we never had snow. And to have snow, you have to go to Argentina or Chile to snowboard or ski and stuff like that. I want to move to the place that had the seasons. Yeah. And so, and therefore I started looking that direction. And Iowa was I did my research as, put it like a research together as the states that had more opportunities at that time. And the way I look at it, it's not like just pick up your backpack and go. It's like, for me, it was like I look at the state and the possibilities and the opportunities that would open for you. And I guess I've been doing this since I was in Brazil too. Every time I look at a company to go work for, it's like, what are they doing for the environment? What are they doing for, society? What are they doing for the people? And I feel like Iowa was the most prominent state that could offer me that. So I can offer that to the state, and then they could offer me that. And Des Moines came up, as the most opportunity that I could find to go to, and that's why I picked Iowa. And I think and Des Moines is growing until today. But I didn't want to go to a saturated city like Chicago, for example, like Minneapolis, and not having growth. I needed to grow for myself, personal growth, professional growth. The way I look at it, that was the most opportunity that I could find. It was in Des Moines.
American dream.
That's right.
Is it still alive?
The American dream, it's what keeps me going, and it's the reality for a lot of people. And as a foreigner myself, I think that American is great. A lot of people can complain about whatever the sides are, the Democrats or the Republican. We can go to politics. I don't have sides. I'm like in the middle. But I mean, this country has so much great, so much opportunities, and until today, I feel like I'm still growing. That is so much growth that you can have, and I don't even think that a lot of people, oh, but you, I feel like that is a lot of opportunity. Even with the problems, even with the whole situation that we're going through in politics, it doesn't matter. If you work hard, if you show up, if you do your thing, you're going to grow. It's professionally or personally, right? And for me, it's both. I need to wake up every day and I have to grow. And now I have two kids, and the growth is not just for me, you know, the growth is for them too, right? I came to this country to give them better opportunity of living, you know, and that's what I'm aiming for. It's giving them the opportunity that I didn't have it, but I also create that opportunity to myself, and I feel like that's important. They will never. They might hear the story from me in years from now because they're too young now, but they will not have the same problems I had it. And if I could do that for every kid in Brazil, for every person, I would love to have my family here too. But it's hard, and I remember my mom said that, like, you did it great for you. You moved to a country that can give you possibilities and then hopes and opportunities. And you have to do that for you. And I remember this because my mom was reluctant to me to move to a different country, right? She's like, oh, I don't want you to move, but at the same time, the way you see things is different, and you want a better life for you. And if you do that, it free my mind from the problems that we have here. And then we have these conversations until today over the phone, and that's what I aim for. It's getting better every day. And I think the US amazes me how much opportunity you can have.
What gives you the drive, Melv?
The drive, the drive, I guess it's internal. I don't think I want to make more money per se. I just want to be successful. I had two goals when I came to the US. I was learning English and be successful.
How do you define success? What's success for you? Because I think every person has their own definition and vision of success. I'm curious, what does it look like for you?
That is a great question. And you're right. You're right about that. Success for a lot of people is different. And for me, sitting right here, it's very successful for me. Right? What I am today, what I accomplish, right? I learned the language. Or maybe I learned the language. Maybe I'm still working on it. My daughter now, I read books with my daughter. And my daughter said, Mom, it says that way, Dad. Because I have an accent and I sound words that, she's teaching me. I got a video of she trying to teach me asparagus. How do I say asparagus? It's so funny. But this is, for me, it's the definition of success. When you move from a different country, you have your culture, right? You have your parents educating you in a different culture. And 15 years later, you're looking back, and I accomplished unfortunate to say, we have this conversation too over, me and my dad. Like, he couldn't give it to me, right? But at the same time, for me, I don't feel bad because I didn't have the opportunity when I was younger, right? I feel like I'm extremely successful with what I accomplished. I look back and I say, like, this is successful for me. I learned English. I'm talking in English with you, and people understand what I'm saying. And I didn't have the opportunity when I was younger. Was that unhappy for me? Was moments that, successful. The successful word is I'm extremely successful. And I'm going to be successful in whatever I do because I show up, and I'm not just putting 100%, it's 200%. And that's what I tell my daughter. We have a discussion about, she's playing soccer now, and she said that the team is not the best team. And I told her, like, you don't have to carry the team. You have to do your part on the team, right? If you do what you got to do in your team, it doesn't matter if you lose. What matters is if you put effort. You put effort to win the game. You score goals. You might not win the game, but you learn something from that game every time, right? And my daughter now at 6, she started teaching me more than I think I teach her. I don't think she understands that now, but I learn a lot when I'm just watching the game. And answer your question, successful for me, it's showing up, it's be better, it's learning, and you make mistakes throughout the times, right? I feel like I make mistakes and I'm not perfect, but if you learn and you go back and you reassess and you do better, that's how life is. And at 46 years old, you understand a little bit more when you make the mistakes when you're 16, 26, 36. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but the definition of success for me, it's putting the effort and going after. That's you're gonna be successful in anything you do in life if you do that. And I guess that's I hope that answered the question, Adrian, because that's how I feel every day.
I'm curious, right? I want you to share here with me and obviously for the audience. You came all the way from Iowa. You flew in last night. You wanted to be here. This was no obligation. I offered it to you, and you were like, "We're going to make this happen." We even, had to work throughout, some dates and conflicts, and you still didn't give up on it. You made it a work, and you're here in a studio, and you invest, your time, your money to be here. I'm curious, why did you do that? For most people, they're looking at, okay, in order for me to be on a podcast, in order to have this conversation, it's not easy. Maybe it's like very inconvenient because, I got to spend some money that I got to dedicate basically 2 days of my life to just be on a podcast for an hour or for 2 hours, talk to some random guy. So I'm curious, why did you make this choice? Why was this important to you?
So I, like I said on a LinkedIn roll-in that we had it like an hour ago, I am very, when I put my mind in something, I'm very like, this is what I have to accomplish, right? You have to sacrifice a couple of things in life to get other things. And for me, effort, it's what tells you like you're going to be successful. The effort that I'm putting to come here that I can learn more. And I've been following you for a while on LinkedIn, and there is a reason why, right? I pick up the LinkedIn and I look at multifamily people because I want to learn more. And I remember when we were talking the first time on the phone, and I asked this question, and you answered me that it's better to do in person. And then I was like, man, this guy is like, he thinks pretty similar to what my thought process is. And you're doing that every day, right? You go and meet with people. That's the job, right? The maintenance job, it's you go and looking at properties. And it's funny what you said in a car because it goes back to my mind and like, well, like I look at properties different. I look at to make the property better, right? Even the property managers or the investors or the homeowners, right? They have a different look, different point of views on the property. And to answer your question, why it's like you have to put effort in life to get better, right? I'm investing my time, but you invest in your time as well. And isn't it better when you invest in people?
The way I look at it is that I'm a very fortunate individual that I don't have to do this. I get to do it. So it's a privilege to be able to sit down with company executives, with people that have a lot to offer to the industry like you, right? I get to. It's not an obligation. It's not an inconvenience for me. So I look forward to conversations and events like this. They help me grow. They give me joy. And I think that there's a lot of folks out there that actually appreciate this type of situation. I want them to be able to experience a conversation that otherwise you and I could have over the phone. But then
and we did have those over the phone.
We had those as well. The thing is, we didn't record. And also doing it over the phone, even if you record or if you do a virtual, it's never like the in-person feel. The emotions that are being transmitted through a conversation face-to-face, one-on-one, they cannot be replicated by any type of technology, or at least yet. That's just my opinion. So that's a long answer to your question. I get to do this. I'm excited to do it.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of value in doing this type of conversations and actually documenting the conversations, right? So that builds skill that actually takes the conversation from this room and puts it up to virtually everybody out there in the world to see it.
Yeah, I think the same, And then when you said that over the phone in the first conversation and the second conversation we had, I feel like I was like, man, I have to, take the time. We got to figure it out, this schedule, and take the time to fly to Atlanta and do it in person, because it's never, you can never emulate, what a conversation would be in person than over the phone. It's different. You get that touch, you get an experience, and at the same time I get to meet someone that I have followed in person. That it's funny that you had a podcast with Dan, another day, in a conversation that he said that how much you have give him, and it is the same. Like, I follow people just like you on LinkedIn. I follow Tony. I follow Tim now. I follow all the guys that you interview. And then every time I listen to a podcast about multifamily, about property, about maintenance, I learn a little bit more, right? I add value to my what I want to, my bucket. And I think that's what life is about. The more you learn, and the more you learn, the more you understand how much more you need to learn that you don't know, right? So, and I remember this like it was yesterday. My grandpa used to say that, my grandpa said, like, I feel like the more you learn and you become more like intelligent, let's say, that you understand that, like, man, I need to learn a lot more to be better in this, to manage that. A lot of people are, oh, you're an expert in roofing. That's like, it's never. I don't feel like I'm an expert. I feel like I'm learning every day. I'm like, and then I get people that teach me every day. And that is a saying that you have 1,000 ways to skin a cat. I seen people doing roofing, for the different crews, and these guys are doing for 20 years, and the crew comes in and the other crew do it a little different. I'm like, man, it's the same. It's a different process, but you learn from every crew different, what they do, how they cut the shingles, or how they, put the membrane down, and that's what interests me. It's like, I'm so fascinated about processes that then I'm looking at it, maybe it's so analytical, like, how do I learn more on this in the conversation too? How do I, like, I'm like a little sponge. I want to learn more every day from people that I believe that are doing the same things I want to do. I want to teach more the guys out there to do video, to do, to put themselves out there and learn more. But I think that, and I remember when Tony Souza said that on a podcast with you, you have to be genuine about it. I've seen a lot of people they're not doing genuine. They're doing it for the likes, or maybe for the, for the money. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm okay with the money, but I'm doing it for me. First for me, then for the people around you. I want the people around me to be better. It's just the whole saying about I'm gonna get better no matter what because I'm doing it for me. But how can I make other people better? And that's what I feel like when I look at the multifamily people in Des Moines. I talk to multifamily every day, day in and day out, and I feel like they're not in the level of the other big cities. They don't have the information, or they don't have the skills. So now, me going on the podcast with you, I learn more, and then I can leave the information out there. So how I can help more people to be better. That's the goal, right? And it's not, and then I will. I will help them to be better. I will help them to understand better about roofing. I will help them to grow their ROI or the NOI or whatever that is. I will help them to be better. And for me, it's not even, they don't have to do business with me, but they will learn from me. And that's the goal. I'm so detached from the outcome and that they have to do a roof with me. They can do a roof with the other contracts. I'm not that other contractors too, and I hope they are doing the same thing I'm doing. I'm learning every day. I'm getting better every day, and I'm getting the information. And I hope they do that for them. That's the goal.
You mentioned podcast. You mentioned people you're following. I want to get to LinkedIn. How did you discover LinkedIn? What did it mean for you when you discovered it? And how did it evolve? What does LinkedIn mean for you today? What's the significance of LinkedIn in your life and career?
I think the platform, it's like, just like flashings and whatnot are overlooked as a growth. I think LinkedIn opened a lot of channels for me. And when I was in the previous company, I want to do that like about 2 or 3 years ago, and I didn't start it. It is a reason. Everything I do, it's analytical, right? And that's a reason why I didn't start. And I hold off a little bit, and I started doing videos about more than a year ago, but I didn't release the videos. The journey for me was like, I want to document what I do. I want to create my portfolio. For me, this is how I started. For me, I want to create my portfolio, like what I do, so that I can go and revisit that video and revisit how we did it. Is a better process. Is a better education. And that has to do with my other half too. She's a learn and develop for a banking in Des Moines, and she's in HR and training. And when I moved to roofing from the manufacturer industry, when I was in shingles, they did a lot of training. But a lot of the training, I can see that now, a lot of the training wasn't utilized the way they should utilize. They're great. They do training. I learned a lot in the manufacturer. I visit plants for how they, manufacture shingles, but they never really utilize that the way they should, And then it's funny because for me, it's like the way I see it, it's like tools. You have to have a tool, but if you have a tool, you need to use it accordingly, right? So if you have a great hammer, it doesn't matter if you have a hammer, but you need a screwdriver to put a screw on it. The hammer is not going to help you. You can be the best hammer. You can be a titanium hammer. You have to have the tools accordingly to what you need, And I feel like there is a lot out there in roofing. There is a lot of tools, a lot of training, but they're not utilized the correct way. And so to answer your question, is what I'm trying to build in LinkedIn is something that getting the tools for people. Like, for example, I talk to property managers today in Des Moines. They don't know what a J channel is. They don't know how much it costs to replace a J channel. They don't know what the labor cost is. And that's a lot of property managers. And even though when you go in CAM and CAPS, the licenses that you have, I feel like they lack of those trainings and the learning and developers perspective of, and then when the property managers go to the job, right, the companies hire them to be a property managers. I feel like that's almost like tossing a baby in a swimming pool, and then go swimming. You know what I mean? Like they have the training, but it's not utilized to the 100% that they could, And the idea that I had was, I want to do this, and I want to show to them what the cost is, right? Because for them, for the property manager itself, the ROI is important. The NOI is important. I mean, I feel like that's roofer over there. They don't know what ROI is. If you don't know what ROI or NOI is, how are you going to meet with the property manager to make that job better? Like for me, it's not about me. It's about them. How do I make that job easier? How do I make that job better? Right? And how do I help them grow? That's like what's important for me. Might not be important for other roofers. They're looking at it like, well, how do I get that roof replacement and move on? I don't want to just get the roof replacement. I want to get the roof replacement and then do the not preventive maintenance, but the scheduled maintenance. So that way I can help that property manager grow. I can help. It's almost like a program, and how much of the education that I can do to serve them better. That's the goal, right? The goal, it's like with what I have, all the knowledge that I acquire from the manufacturing days, how do I give them to the property managers to be better at that job? And that's what I'm trying to accomplish now with the platform. The goal is I'm utilizing this platform because I've seen a lot of property managers out there and make them like better for that daily, make that job easier.
You're trying to educate your audience using LinkedIn as a channel. Honestly, I've seen occasionally like roofing content on LinkedIn before I've gotten to know you and be connected with you, but it wasn't too much. And honestly, roofing is not a sexy topic, right? It's not something that people die to know. And having someone like you taking the time, like really taking the time and doing it with a passion that you do it, makes all the difference. I was just saying this to you earlier. I'm not sure if we said that on a camera during the LinkedIn Live. You should be considering doing like a master class in roofing, because you make things, not only that you share the knowledge, but you make things interesting. And then people wanted to watch you, wanted to be educated, not in a very boring, like professional type, professorial, like university type setting.
Yeah.
They want to be educated by the doers, by the people that are actually doing it in a field. I'm of a very strong opinion that the best learning that you could be exposed to, is the one that comes from the practitioners, not from the professors. Professors don't have an amazing relationship with reality. They tend to be isolated in a bubble, and they're trying to build things that sometimes they're in a vacuum. When you take them from the vacuum environment to the real life, it's not working out.
It's like the book experience and the real experience.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Another example that just comes to mind is professional speakers, right? People that speak for a living, and some of them are amazing. They build entire empires, or media company, everything. They make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars just from speaking. But then they speak on topics that they don't have anything to show for. And what I'm trying to say by that is that they're giving people advice, how should your company culture be like? And they build this amazing, image about what the company should be like, but they never built one.
But they never been in that shoes.
They never build that culture. So to me, not to say that all those ideas might not work. I'm saying that probably some of them work. But then for me, that the street cred is important. Is the person that walk the walk. I like to see you, when you do your shows, when you get up on a ladder and you pull that roof and you show like, this is the rotten piece. This is why you should do whatever. This is why you should install whatever. So I like, because it's very raw, it's very real, and it's also very practical, right? So it's entertaining, but at the same time it's very practical. It's not something boring that people will watch like a school type of environment video. So
I understand what you're saying. It's very technical. When you look at a data bulletin from on a roofing, right? Like the way we look at it, the way I look at it when I teach contractors how to install the product. If you look at it, it's very boring. It's not, but I can't really, I had to give prompts to, I hire a video coaching last year, right? And I learned a lot with it, with him on how to do, and he says this, right? And I met him on LinkedIn, and it's edutainment. It's education
through entertainment
and entertainment together.
Yep.
And I feel like, and you put both together, and nowadays, like if you look at my videos are all shorter than a minute or 2 minutes. And the reason why is because we have a lot of information. It's a lot of like, you pick up your phone at 6 a.m. and it's ads. It's propaganda, it's marketing, it's whatever it is. So you have a minimum time to create like a good first impression for people, because it's a first impression every time you meet someone on the internet. And that's how I see it. Even though I'm knocking the door, that's a first impression. If I'm going to a property manager, that's a first impression. If you send a DM on LinkedIn, that's a first impression. When people look at me, what's the impression that I want to pass to? I don't want the impression that you have to buy my service. That's not what I want. I'm here to give it for free. And I will give it for free. And I will educate you better than if you pay for someone that did it charging you. And the reason why is because it's more global. I can't knock on the door of everybody in my LinkedIn because they're in the different states, they're in the different countries. But I can knock on the door throughout my videos. And if I do that, I accomplish one more person. This is how I feel like when I fly. If I fly economy class and the people next to me that I get to pitch what I think it's best for their roof, right? It's not even a sales pitch. It's just a suggestion. It's a recommendation. It's an education. Again, I told the guy next door about what I do because people ask you. Americans are they ask you, who are you? It's what do you do for a living? It's who you are. And then I told them like I was coming here to get a podcast in roofing. And they're like, roofing? I was like, yeah, roofing. Like you said, it's not so sexy. Like people don't see roofing as I see roofs everywhere. I look at the roof, I look at the construction, and I just want to educate more people. And if I can save someone from a roofer that doesn't know, and not to put it the way that it's skill and a will, right? There is roofers out there, they don't have the skills, but there is roofers out there, they don't have the will. So I have the will to teach people, and I'm getting the skills every day because I go and teach myself, right? But I want to give my will and my skills to the property managers, to the realtors, to the other roofers. I don't even consider myself competitive with the other roofers in my market. For me, they're not doing what I'm doing. They're not. And I don't think they're going to do what I'm doing because nobody can do what you do. It's very personal. So, nobody's going to do what I do out there. If I get a call from a property manager in Seattle asking me like, hey, what do you think about this? Oh, I'll tell you what I think. If I can educate one more property manager to be better in the job, I complete my mission, and that's the goal. Educate more people, get them better, that they can be better for their teams too. Then they will educate that team. It's almost like taking the whole experience that I have and spread out.
Yeah, you're basically leveraging social media to amplify the message, to increase your brand reach.
Yeah.
And your knowledge, not just your brand, but your knowledge reach. It's so much that you could influence in person. When you put it all, when you record it, when you document and you put it on the social media channels, this could go to like thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing vehicle. How long ago have you started doing videos, your short videos?
So it's about a year. It's about a year now.
How did it change your life? How did it change like the way you work?
The way I work, it makes a lot easier for me because I can see. I mean, I see a lot of problems, right? But I see a lot of good properties too. Before you only see. I feel like that's a lot of roofers out there that don't have the education, don't have the skills, but then I see a lot of the solutions being delivered in a bad manner. So I think that my videos help people, right? And now I start a newsletter, and this is like a week. I started my newsletter a week ago, and I have about 1,200 subscribers. It's crazy, so that the reach, reach that high and so fast.
How did you like? What did you advertise? How did you get to 1,200?
It's the same thing I'm doing every day on the video, right? Because I have what I'm writing, what I'm saying, it goes to my newsletter. And so if I have more property managers, more realtors, more, even Airbnb flippers, house flippers, everybody that's involved with the roofing, the siding, the gutters. Even me as a homeowner, I consider myself like a long time flipper because I buy the property and I flip inside and outside. And then 5-10 years later, I move to another property because I kept the equity. And if you look at it, it's not different than I'm doing asset management. It's my asset. I'm making it better. I'm doing the small things to make the property better, and I resell it. So, but now you scale, then you go to multifamily. It's the same thing, but the difference is the asset's a lot bigger, the zero is a lot bigger. So, but if you add value to people in general, and that's the goal, add value for them. That's the goal. My newsletter is to make sure people understand better roofing, better siding, better gutters, better fascia, better soffit, stuff related to your house. I think I need more license. And I thought about getting a CAM license. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's going to add value for me because then I understand better. And I look at it, but they don't talk a lot about exteriors on it. And that's something that I see as an opportunity. As I always say, I see it as an opportunity. I think that they should do more for property managers, for the market itself, for the industry. So with and with my newsletter, I'm gonna reach that. I want the more I can get people to subscribe and get information, the better they will be. And so I'm doing it for them.
What are some things that people in multifamily get the wrong way when it comes to roofing? What are some misconceptions when it comes to multifamily operators, investors, and developers? What are some things they get wrong?
So I see that a lot in Des Moines, which is I'm kind of isolated with the market. right? Because I'm in the Midwest and I'm in just my town, my city. But I seen that worldwide, and as shingles were manufactured to last 30, 40, 50 years back in the day. And even though with the technology and the money that we have today in DNA's age, shingles, this is a misconception. And I'm gonna tell, and I'm gonna put my foot down, and I'm gonna say it. And a lot of people are gonna be like, no, he's not. Shingles, the shingles that we have today, it's not gonna outlast 30 years. I have shingles in my own home. My home is 12 years old. It's a new build, considered a new building. And my shingles look like they need to replace. And unfortunately to say, within the 15-year margins, and that's what I think that a lot of property managers, it's exactly what you're saying, developers, they miss the numbers. So, and roofing got so much expensive these days. And I mean, my house, to re-roof my house, it's 15 grand, a little bit more than that, about 15, 16,000. But if you don't work that in your budget, right? So imagine if you get a budget, if you create a budget, and the assets to replace your roof, it's $500,000 to $700,000. But now you think that in 30 years, you're going to have to replace your roof, but your roof actually needs to be replaced in 15 years from now. I mean, you can see what that's going, right? So you look at your budget and you're like, we're fine for 30 years, but you're not fine for 30 years. You're going to need that CapEx to replace the roof. And now it's $750 that you need to come up with. So how do you do that? And I feel like a lot of roofers are doing a disservice to property managers, to property owners, to realtors, to flippers, saying that the shingle is going to last 30 years. It's not. It's going to last 15 years. Put that in your budget. Start saving money. I create a terminology that it came up on a video that I said the RSA, the roofing savings account. Every homeowner should have a roofing savings account set up. In the 80s, or even I would say in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, I wasn't in the U.S., but I know for a fact that the big items were like AC, water heaters. That was the big items on the homeowner that cost you money when you buy a property. And that's the same for multifamily. Imagine if you have to replace all the AC units. What's the cost that you're going to add on the value of the property, right? Or even that if you get that as a credit to buy the property, to acquire the property. But nowadays, you look at the roofing cost. I mean, an AC unit, you can get an AC unit for $5,000, a good AC unit. With the water heater, it's another maybe $2,500. And it's like $7,500. A roof, it's double than that. Roof used to be $5,000. With the costs that increment throughout the years. And going back to what you said, that it's not so sexy. Nobody looks at the roof. I don't, when my home inspector did my house, he didn't go on the roof. I was like, you're not going to go up there in the roof? And he's like, oh, no. I was like, no, you are. Because I'm a roofer. I'm buying the property. I want to know that what's the quality of the roof, what it looks like, and what needs to be done to make sure that I can have another 2 or 3 years on it. But at least you have the information. And that's what I think the misconception is. They don't have that information. And, to be honest, a lot of insurance are changing the way they look at it. And you have to look at your roof. You have to do maintenance. Some insurance are not even cover you if you don't do scheduled maintenance on your roof, on your siding, on your property. And I feel like that is how do I say this? The standard, it's not standardized with all home inspections. Some do look at the roof, some don't. It should be more standardized. It should be more like they should have to look the entire asset. I look at from the point of view of the entire asset. From the basement, right? We go down from the basement to the roof and vice versa, to the roof to down the basement. I want to look every aspect of that property because for me, that's an asset. right? I want to look at it, and I want to look at it as a numbers that, okay, what do I have to invest in it? What do I have to create? My roofing savings account thing that I created in my mind, it's like to prevent people, having to get a finance, or they're better off to do that. But if they have that information when they get in a house, they're a lot better off if they didn't have that information. That's the main idea.
Back to content. How do you how does it feel, putting out content out there, being almost, like maybe, are you posting, how often are you posting on LinkedIn? Every day?
Every day,
Once, twice, three times?
just once.
Once a day,
Yeah.
every day. Are you doing weekends too?
No, I do not.
No, only
Weekend
Monday,
is for the kids.
only Monday to Friday. Okay, so like five times a week. Uh,
Weekend is for the family.
how long you been doing like this? 5 days a week?
So about a year.
About a year.
Yeah.
How is your current situation like on LinkedIn today than it was? How is it different? Or is it any different than a year ago?
Yeah, I got more followers.
Okay. How about interactions like DMs, behind the scenes stuff that people don't necessarily see?
I get a lot more DMs now than when I was in post, you know, but I feel like it's people looking for information. I mean, I got a lot of people looking for the information, like, hey, what are you doing? What's when I tell them hey, I got a sales coach last year, I got a video coach, I invested in me, I pay for to do this, and I think that a lot of people a lot of people that reach out, I give you my what do you call my tech stack, right? What I'm using, what I utilize, what I do. It's not. I'm not into the whole. I like to share, and I like to share more than so then they can do the same, on that whatever they are doing. And I feel like that's a lot of stuff on LinkedIn is like less than the Instagram and the TikTok. A lot of people are selling more. Oh, well, how do you do? Oh, here, I'll give you my tech stack, but this is gonna cost you. I was like, what? It's like it's just sharing is caring. If I can share the knowledge with people and they do for them, like I don't want to gatekeep the what I'm doing. You know what I mean? It's just information. And if you Google, you might find you're gonna take longer. But if you reach out, I'll give you what I'm doing. I mean, this is what I'm doing, and this is what you should do. You do whatever you want to do, but at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of people are trying to the internet and this era of AI. They're trying to sell more. You know what I mean? I don't need to sell more. I can tell you whatever the video editor I'm using, the app, the technology, and if that's a good fit for you, awesome. You go do that. And it's so much easier than, oh, I'm gonna sell my strategy. It's like I don't need to sell my strategy. My strategy is show up every day, utilize the tools, and be better. And that's how I think that's gonna be for me. It's a lot easier.
From a cost perspective, I'm curious. You mentioned your business, your sales coach, and your video coach. What's cost wise? Where do you stand? What type of expenses you're looking at? If someone watching us now, is interested in signing up.
It's funny because I got this from my sales coach, right, Alan, and I remember that people would say I was the whatever the most sold. I sold the most roofs in the company, and and they asked me like, why do you get a sales coach? I was like, well, the question is like, I want to be better, and I did that for the entire year, and I think I got better, and I'm sure I got better, and the coach helped me with a lot of education and information, and I think everybody should get a coach. And I got to the point in the industry that I didn't have I never had money. I never had money to pay for a coach. and once I had the opportunity, I did. Right? I invested on me to get better, and it costs you a lot of money, And I mean, I would say it was 12 grand in coaching for the year, so that's $1,000 a month,
Yep.
and that's the same with the video coach. If you have to hire a coach to teach you, it's gonna cost you money. But what does it add for you? And I accomplished what the ad was for me. I think I have accomplished what I want and what I need, and the information that I have got from both of them in what I'm doing. And they might get the return. I might not have the ROI the way I want it to be, but maybe the ROI, it didn't need to be the way I was thinking before I got them, right? And the mindset is like very, like, getting better is the best ROI that you can get it.
I love what you said when you first answered the question. You mentioned that this is an investment for you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear you saying, I had to spend this. I had to, like, you were like, I invested in myself. I think that this is an incredible mindset situation. If you're looking at spending money into making yourself better as an expense or as an investment, I think the biggest winners are the ones that are actually happy to spend the money to better themselves, and they're looking at it as, I invest in myself. Like, I didn't get to write a $24,000 check to hire these 2 coaches a year. Like, man, I had to justify. Of course, you want to see a return, right, to that. But when you're thinking in terms of like, I got to spend, it's not the same. I don't even think that they're the same results, right? When you're focused on like the spend versus invest in myself. It's all about the mindset.
It is the mindset. The mindset is everything for me, it's the mindset. And when you say like, oh, when you come to Atlanta, it's like, what's most, what is the most expensive thing in life that people have the misconception that think that they will have it or not?
Probably time, because it's a non-renewable resource to me, right?
Yeah.
And especially I'm learning this as I get older. When I was younger, I never thought in these terms. It was like, you feel like you will live forever. You don't really contemplate death. If you're like fairly healthy, right? You don't have like major health problems. You're not really thinking, hey, my time is running out. Like I have all this time. You feel like you would live forever when you're young. And then as you grow older, you realize that isn't so. And you started valuing time a different way, because what it is that, you have less of it left. Especially when I just turned 50 a couple of weeks ago, and especially when you turn 50, I know that I'm over 50% of the time that I have left. Maybe way over.
Yeah.
Only God knows how much I have left. But when you know that you don't have as much left as you already lived, as you already spent, the value put on time is different. At least this is how it works for me.
Yeah, it's an investment.
So long answer to your question.
Yeah. So and that's how I see it. I see that people waste a lot of time. I put my time in stuff that I can get better. And that's the reason, that, and to be honest, that's why we're doing this in person. Because I value that your time and my time. And I learn more than I would do it through the phone. We're gonna do it through the phone, and then we're gonna do more in person. And the value that you get from the time that we spend together, what is the value? You get a lot more value for, and it goes back to what I compare to price and value. And I tell homeowners this all the time. The price, it's what you're paying now. The value, it's what you get for. You know what I mean? Like you don't have a pricing value. You know, the experience that I have, you can't put a price on that. You can pay me for the price, but you can hire a different contractor that's going to charge less than what I do, but you're not going to get the same value.
Melvin, what are your specific plans for multifamily? What's your vision, strategy, short term, mid term, long term when it comes to multifamily?
That's a great question. And the goal, it started with education. And I see multifamily now the way I see it. I'm not even in the multifamily, right? And with all the environment, the AI technology changing, right? We can talk about this, but for me, the main goal, it's help them to be better in their job, help them to save more money, help them to increase the occupancy rates, right? When you look at a multifamily, this is how I look at it. They have pretty much the same goals I have, right? They want to increase your rental, right? They want to have the property, the asset looking better. They want to curb appeal, right? All the same stuff I want as a roofing contractor. But this is my opinion. I want the property to look good, but I don't want just the property to look good. I want the property to perform good. So when you have install a roof on a property manager that they have to do less maintenance. That's what it kind of gets me. The goal is to decrease the amount that they pay in maintenance, increase the occupancy rates, right? And make sure that renter, right, the people that's renting the properties are served better. It's the same goals. And how do I do that with roofing? The question is, how do I do this with roofing? How do I do this with siding? If the property manager doesn't have to think about maintenance, that's the best service that we can possibly provide to the property manager. Is your roofing guy doing that for you? Is your exteriors guys doing that for you? That's my questions to property managers. What is your roofer, or as a vendor, right? Because when I hear all the time, it's like, what is your vendor doing for you? You know, and a lot of the contractors out there think that property managers want the cheapest bid. It isn't the cheapest bid. No, it's we living in the era that I talk to property managers all the time, you know. And back in the day, I remember when Amazon released that second day delivery, you know, and everybody was like, oh, 2 days delivered. Now everybody's happy. Nowadays, it's next day delivery. We're living in the Amazon era. The customer wants the today and he wants the now. So when I put in as a roofer, as a contractor, as a vendor, I put myself through the eyes of the multifamily property manager or the investor. This is what I see. They need it and they need it now. How do I do that? How do I service them better, cost effective, right? That has to be, I'm not saying cheaper, but it has to be a better value, better price, and for their lifetime, for that 15 years margin. Where I stand is like, I want to do better, you know, and I feel like multifamily has this problem because they scale, they're bigger, right? When you're looking at a property that has like, you know, for example, the project that I done last year, 1,200 squares, you know, it's 9 buildings. All the other contractors that didn't get the job, in a sense, said like, well, how do you get that job? It's like, I wasn't selling warranty, I was selling service, you know. And once you get me as your roofer, the problem is like, you're going to get me for life, right? So all the other roofers out there, they're selling projects and it's in and out. They don't call you a year from now to check on you. They should. You should call your customers. You should call hey, how's the roofing doing? I'm putting my letter over there to check your roof to see if everything is doing. And what it's funny because I preach the 2 inspection a year. I think that's the minimum, when it comes to weather, right? You think about weather and you think about storms, and that's what I think about it. Property managers don't think about that until the storm hits it. For me, it's like, how do I serve them? They have a storm. Now I'll go over there and check the roof and everything is great. Okay, here's your report. And 3 months later, we have a storm. We have a hailstorm. Well, let's go over there, put a letter, check. He's the report. So then if you do that constantly, you're a lot better off as a property than if you only check, oh, they done the roof. 5 years later, they go check, and then they have a bunch of stuff to do. And when you're looking at a budget, right, they should put allocate a account just for repairs, for roofing, for siding. And I don't think the roofers are doing that. I just don't, but every property manager that I ask is like, oh, what was the last time you have your property checked? The roof is fine. Is it fine? How do you know it's fine? So, but if you have that documented, you're a lot more to pay less for the insurance. You're a lot more proactive with your property, And I mean, I've seen property managers doing a walk around the property. You should do the same thing for the roof. The property managers are getting you in the roof. So, and my question to the property manager is like, are you a hands-on property manager or are you a hands-off? Right? So it's not I'm a hands-on roofer. I have to put my eyes on it. I have to see it. I have to document it. I have to see damage or not. I'm great when I go up there and everything is fine. Here's the report. So that way, if you have a damage, if you have something damaged, that way you can save money on your budget. And so that's so simple, but I don't think they're doing, and then I'm not sure in Atlanta, right? When you look at the property, but I know for sure in Des Moines, they're not doing. So, and if not doing Des Moines, that is some property managers that you can see, that big property managers, that you look at the pictures that they have on the websites, the assets look great. So some property managers are doing, some property managers are at the top of the ratio at the multifamily. Why is that? Do they have better vendors? Do they doing the job that requires to maintain the asset like the way you're supposed to? I do that with my house. I check my roof 4 times a year, and might be an overkill, but you can find problems and fix problems instead of not finding the problems, don't know that you have a problem, and that costs you a lot more, when you find it. Then it's too late, And what is the cost of a roofing inspection? What is the cost? It really doesn't have a cost for you. If you've done the roof with me, for example, I'm going to go back to that property a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, and I'll keep doing that. And so when you do this way, the margins for repairs in your budget, it's a lot lower than what we're doing now.
Well, I want to touch on technology next. So I read an article like 2 weeks ago, wanted to say, that described a robot that was built by a company in Israel that's actually performing in New York, hanging drywall. And the robot is capable to do 1,500 square feet an hour of drywall hanging. How do you think that's gonna play in roofing, man?
It's funny because at the IRE, which is the International Roofing Expo that I went last year, the year before, and they were talking about AI robots and how it's gonna disrupt the environment, and it's gonna disrupt the environment for everybody. A lot of people think that it's gonna be in 10 years from now. I do not. We have We have
What do you
robots.
think? How long until if it's not 10 years? What's your time
I
horizon?
think 3 to 5 years, because AI, there's a lot of people that don't utilize AI, and I utilize AI for different purpose, but I don't think that's 10, 15 years on the on the chart, a projection chart. I think it's 3 to 5 years, and they have prototypes of robots doing shingles. Even though it's an easy slope, it's an easy application, but it goes with what you're saying about labor. We have a problem with labor, in the U.S., and I think it's worldwide. To be honest, Uh, the lack of a labor and also the laws and a lot more involved with the problems that you have with a W-2 hire, right? When you hire uh, a worker on the environment that in roofing, if you put a robot over there, you automatic don't have to pay none of the taxes.
Health insurance, workers' comp, you don't pay vacation. They don't take smoke breaks. They don't take lunch. All they know to do is work, and you just keep doing the maintenance on them, and they're going to keep performing for you.
Yeah, and the maintenance, it's the lunch, right? The oil change, just like you do in your car.
Yeah.
It's not really much different than every 3 miles or 6 miles you have to change your oil or you have to change your tires. So a robot is going to come in place in roofing as well. And there will be less margins for mistakes, even though people, it's the same with programming a computer. You're programming a robot to do the service as a roofer. They can cut valleys, they can cut corners, they can cut corners, not cut corners, but cutting corners with the walls. They might not able to be doing that now, but they will. They will, because you can program a phone, a camera, computer. It's not anything different. And I feel like people are too alarmed with the AI. For me, the AI I use as a tool to get me better. So when I write a message, I feel like I have because I don't think in English, I think in Portuguese most of the time. So when I write an email, and then I have Trisha to proofread my email. And then, I have different tools like Claude, like ChatGPT, and I put my email there and they format for me. And I was like, oh man, that looks a lot better than what I want to say. I don't use it to do the writing for me. I use it as a grammar, a grammar check. And so I feel like people are very concerned about, AI is going to take your job. It's like, I don't think it's going to take your job. But if you don't learn how to use it and utilize the tool, then you're going to be a dinosaur, just like the dinosaurs became dinosaurs. But there will be robots in roofing, and I'll be honest. I'll get 5 robots to do a roofing. Imagine a roofing company that utilizes robots.
Unbeatable. There's no way anyone else will compete. So you're gonna have this. You're gonna have the first roofing company buying robots and doing the work. Everybody will be pushed into following, because if they don't adapt quickly enough, they're going to be left behind. That company is gonna run things so much more efficient than the rest of them. Then they're gonna start losing market share until they might just be out of business. So they're gonna have to follow and adapt very, very fast. That's exactly what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I don't mind to try it, because everything that you do requires a different processes, different processes require money, right? Because you put a robots to do the roof, then what's the money that you allocated for that? What's the investment, right? Every time you change something, the process has to change. You require different investments, and so therefore I think AI is it's disrupting the environment for a lot of companies, a lot of work, a lot of industry, and I think it's for everything, not just for the marketing or the writing or it's everything. Like 5 years ago, you couldn't add your own videos. Now that it's like 300 different apps that you can add a video, like a video editor you're gonna need a video editor. Yeah, you might. But if they don't have if they don't utilize the AI tools, they're gonna be a dinosaurs in the environment. And I think it's in everywhere you go. It's not in one per se industry. It's in a lot of industry. It's the new industrial revolution, right? You have the dot-com revolution on the web, and then now you have the AI revolution. That's how I see it. And we might have another revolution in 10, 15 years from now, and the robots are coming.
Yeah, they're coming fast. There's a company I know that purchased a humanoid robot.
Yeah.
And they're testing the robot to now pick up trash on their apartment communities.
Yeah.
So they're starting the robot with very basic tasks. But, once they master that, they're going to get them to do other things, more complicated tasks. So that's going to increase. And I think, some of these machines are just like AI. They're made to learn from previous moves and previous things and improve. So basically, they build a life of their own, and they're able to improve. A lot of these systems are built that way, and that's amazing in so many ways. Could be a little scary too.
Yeah, I mean, I said this before. I see everything as an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the people that, am I scared to lose my job? I'm not. But I will adapt to use those technologies. I per se, if I own my roofing company today, I would be looking at robots. This is if I was an owner. I'm not an owner. I'm only a project manager within the company that I work for or work with. But if I was an owner, I would be looking at that. And if you're not, unfortunately,
somebody else will.
Somebody else will. And when they look at it and they get 5 robots, and I mean, I feel like people also has a curiosity, right? Like I will hire a company just to see the robots performing on the top of the roof. If I didn't, if I don't, I mean, I would love to see it, and then you put drones over there and make a video out of it. Imagine how much of a, reach that you can do. It's just, I want to see how they perform. I want to see how they evolve. I want to see how they're going to get better. And then not just that, now you're looking at it and how can they do better for the customer, right? Imagine if you have robots like the property manager don't have to worry about workers' comp. All these vendors with the certificate of insurance that you don't need to do that. They're like, oh, I have robots that go on your roof. I was like, you have what? Robots. You know what I mean? That the conversation is going to change,
Workers' comp is taking a hit.
And insurance is going to change too.
Oh, absolutely.
So all the industry is going to change. They're going to have to evolve.
Oh, yeah. It's the biggest revolution that we had in our existence as humans, and the fastest one too. Not only the biggest, because the impact, but the fastest. Like it's way faster than any other time. Like I could see things popping up on a daily basis. In a time that we spent here, the couple of hours that we spent shooting the podcast, there's things that are already been accomplished. We don't know about them, but they're hitting the markets. We'll hear about them later on.
It's funny that you say that. I follow a newsletter about AI, and the name is there is an AI for that. You know what I mean? And every day I get something, and it's a new app or a new AI, and I'm like, man, that's it's crazy. And it's funny because all the tools that I utilize, majority of them are free. I mean, they are free. You can pay for a ChatGPT, whatever, but I use Claude, I use the other one, and none of them I don't have to pay for. And when I look at it, I'm like, man, this is crazy how you can put a technology out there, and it's every day. It's exactly what you're saying. Every day it's a new batch of new tools, and so you have to adapt to that as a change, and if you're not, I'm sorry, but you're going to be left behind,
100%. Um, Melv, it's been a real pleasure having you on.
Yeah,
Thank you,
man.
brother, for being here. Um, really, really enjoyed the conversation. Any final thoughts for the audience?
Ah, it's been a pleasure too. I knew that this is gonna be great. I had no doubts on it. In my mind, I had a something set, and to meet in person, and I didn't have any doubts that this is gonna be a great conversation. And I hope that for the people that's tuning in, it's like you wanna learn more. Give me a follow. You wanna hear more about roofing, or how I can do better. It's like I hear from the multifamily people. Follow my newsletter, and yeah, I that's the final thoughts. So, and as you always say, that you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn almost every day. But I'm a person. Like I have my phone number on LinkedIn. I have my email. I have no problem. And you want to reach out, send me a text message. My information is on LinkedIn. Give me a follow, and then we can initiate a conversation.
Pleasure having you on, brother.
Hey,
Thank you.
no, thank you. I really appreciate it. This has been great.